You're listening to the Loving Your Own Soul podcast, and I'm your host, Britt Olson. Guided by my own intuition, my intention is to deliver genuine conversations centered around health and wellness, spirituality, self-expression, and culture. In this space, I will provide you with real-life stories, theories, and inspiring perspectives to help you uncover and tap into your own true potential. I'm so grateful you've chosen to tune in with me on this mindful exploration to living a more fluid life through a deeper connection to the soul. Now let's dive into today's journey. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Loving Your Own Soul podcast. I'm your host, Britt Olson. So excited to have you joining me here today. For those of you who are new around here, this podcast was created to share stories, cover topics, everything from health and wellness, culture, spirituality, lifestyle, really just curated to bring about a sense of connection, inspiration, motivation, hopefully uplift you, and if all else, just give you kind of a different way of thinking as you are going about your daily lives. For me, I've gained so much connection and inspiration and just understanding of different topics and stories in the podcast space that I felt called to create my own. Really, I felt called to create my own for a while now, but I am so grateful that you are here to join me today. Speaking of stories, I think us as individuals, us as humans, we really connect through the sharing of personal stories, which is why I love bringing on different guests of really kind of all realms of life to share their stories and hopefully give you a unique perspective or even set you down onto your own a different path, or maybe confirm that you are on the right path. Today, we are going to be chatting with a woman over in Hawaii. Her name is Holly Meyerson, and she is just such a sweet individual. I've been so fortunate. I really have loved all of my guests that have come on this podcast, but Holly, we had an instant connection upon chatting. I'm down in Florida. She's all the way in Hawaii from Australia originally, as you'll hear from her beautiful accent. And yeah, it was funny. When we finished recording the episode, I immediately went and told Dan, who's my husband, for those of you who don't know, that I was like, oh my gosh, we need to move to Hawaii because I would definitely have a new best friend over in Hawaii. Joking, of course, but no, we definitely had a very strong immediate connection, which is super fun, as I really do with all of my guests. There hasn't been one person that I haven't enjoyed having on my podcast. I definitely think a lot were brought to me, kind of universal alignment, everything like that, for a good reason. But Holly and I, we actually ended up speaking over like a month and a half ago, it's been now. Was so excited, wanted to release this episode immediately as we chat about her healing journey. She utilized the medical medium principles with healing her acne and PCOS. For those who don't know, PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome, and she is completely healed all through medical medium principles, the use of plants, food, and really just kind of surrendering to nature and Mother Earth and all of the gifts that are growing on our planet and around us, and just really utilize those to her benefit. And it paid off. It wasn't an easy road, as you'll hear her chat about. It was a long road. It didn't happen overnight, but she is just such a beautiful soul inside and out. It's crazy. If you look at photos of her now, she has the most beautiful glowing skin. You can just see her genuine aura coming out from around her, but you would never know that she once suffered from crazy amounts of cystic acne all over her face, body. It's just gone through so many different issues and things like that in the health department that looking at her now, you wouldn't know what she's been through. So never judge a book by its cover, that is for sure. But Holly and I, we will go through her story, also hitting on different areas of spirituality and the ways that this healing journey has kind of opened her up in that realm, the power of healing yourself ancestrally, and then even just the balance of relationships and diet and lifestyle changes and what it's like with one kitchen and two partners, and that balance of communication and just feeling so passionate and loving about something and how to properly communicate that out to our loved ones around us. So yeah, it was so much fun. This is a topic that is really important to me as well. And I haven't really found too many people who resonate so deeply with the medical medium principles as Holly did. So for me, it was such a gift getting to finally just have an open conversation about it of someone who has obviously reaped so many benefits, which is incredible. It's kind of inspired me to maybe jump back on that train and really see it out for an extended period of time. But yeah, Holly's amazing. You guys are going to love her. Nonetheless, you will love her Australian accent and everything. And yeah, she is just such a doll. We had to push back the episode with some of the cultural issues that have been, racial issues, the pandemic, everything that has just been kind of taking place here in the US these last couple months. Wanted to make sure this came out at the right time and the information did not feel insensitive to anyone. And then I had some technical difficulties. Mercury's been in retrograde recently, and yeah, it's just kind of been all over the place, but definitely divine timing. I have no doubt that upon releasing this episode here today, it will now, the right ears will find it. And yeah, I'm just so excited to share Holly Meyerson's journey with all of you. For those of you who know me, know that I am always wearing bracelets of some kind. I think probably since I was about 16 or 17 years old, bracelets have truly become a part of who I am and my identity, along with turquoise jewelry, in particular turquoise rings. But anyway, for those of you who are looking for new accessories, versatile items that can carry you through summer, as we all start spending more time outdoors, I highly recommend Pura Vida bracelets. Their beautiful string bracelets are sustainably sourced. You can dress them up or down, carry them through your workouts, in the shower, outside, etc. They hold up so well and are so great. I absolutely love mine. I love all the different colors, styles, etc. The bracelets are so vibrant. They truly represent the mission of the company Pura Vida, which is all about enjoying life's little pleasures, slowing things down, and living life to the fullest. They also carry an array of different accessory items now, from small charm necklaces to rings to anklets, but their gorgeous string bracelets are really who has made them who they are today. Pura Vida even has a charity section where they have a variety of charity bracelets. And not only have they created so many jobs for artisans throughout Costa Rica, India, and beyond, but they actually partner with about 175 charities annually, giving back $2.2 million around the world. So anyway, if you are interested in getting some, which I highly recommend you do, please use my code BritOlson016 in all capitals and follow the link in the show notes to grab 20% off your order and start shopping today. Because this company is so amazing, this code is not just a one-time code. You can actually use my code over and over again, which is so cool. Again, that code is BritOlson016. So go support Pura Vida and enjoy life, as they would say. Holly, thank you so much for jumping on here to record a new episode with me. I'm so excited to share your journey with our listeners. And you are actually tuning in all the way over in Hawaii, which is so much fun. How is life in Hawaii for you right now?
So life in Hawaii is good. It's very slow. It's very peaceful here right now, and I could get very used to it. I'm loving this new slower pace of life and just having so much time to be home and so much time with my husband, and yeah, just the downtime, I think, out of the 9-to-5 grind of just being able to really take care of ourselves. That's just been, and rest and take time to do the things that we enjoy doing. It's just been really, really nice. I'll never forget this time.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. It's been so nice too, like for me personally, not having the typical deadlines that I do have. And just if I want to take a 3-hour morning routine, I can. And I feel like it kind of strips us back to our true nature as human beings.
Oh, totally. I totally agree. I think the trick is now, after all of this, and, I'm sure everyone all over the world is probably feeling very much the same. And I think coming out of this, it's going to be like, okay, so all these yummy things we've been doing that feel so good, how do we incorporate these and, keep them in our lives when things, start to feel like they're returning back to the crazy grind, right?
100%. I hope people will be able to continue on with what we've learned during this time.
Me too.
So important. So I am so jealous of your beautiful life on Hawaii. I love all your Instagram photos. Everything just looks so beautiful. For those who aren't as familiar with you, do you want to take a little backstory, just kind of your life in Hawaii when you moved there from Australia, and just kind of a little bit of a quick backstory on you?
Yeah, for sure. So even though I do have an Aussie accent, people do get kind of confused, but I actually am from here originally. I was born in Hawaii, grew up here when I was little, had a pretty dream early childhood, that's for sure. But we moved to Australia when I was a little bit older, and I finished elementary school there, went to high school there and graduated. I grew up in Sydney. And then I took a couple years after high school. I moved to Hong Kong and I worked as an au pair for an Aussie family over there. And I got to travel all around Asia. It was really cool.
Cool.
Yeah, it was so cool. And then I kind of started freaking out a little bit. I was just like, oh my gosh, I need to figure out what I'm doing with my life. I could keep doing this forever. I decided I definitely didn't want to go back to Australia. I left a pretty traumatic childhood there, and I just didn't want to go back to that kind of family environment. So I knew I wanted to come back to Hawaii, as I just always felt such a strong pull here. And I think the islands were beckoning me back throughout all my years in Australia. I never really quite felt like that was my home. And so it was the one thing where I was like, that's for sure where I want to be. But it was how am I going to do this, right? I was moving back by myself and was kind of a little lost and confused. But I decided to go to university here to get a degree in elementary teaching. And then, so that's what spurred my move back. And it's now been about 12 years and a lot has happened in between.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine living anywhere else now. This is totally my home and I just love it.
That's so cool. It's interesting how almost some innate calling inside of you just was always calling yourself back to Hawaii.
Absolutely.
I love that. How was your experience in Hong Kong and Asia? I've traveled through a bit of Asia myself and I absolutely love it. There's something about the culture over there that it just speaks to me a lot.
Oh, I totally agree. Isn't it just the best? I think it's just because it's so different. Yeah. Just the way of life and the culture, the way people are, the education system, everything about it is just so different. And it's really mind blowing, but I loved being in Asia. It was one of the best experiences of my life. It definitely wasn't all candy and roses. I mean, it definitely had its challenges too, but it was definitely what I needed at the time. And it really helped me to kind of, there's nothing quite like travel to help you learn and figure out who you are.
Completely.
And it's funny because my experiences in Asia and just loving it so much, but it being so different. And then here in Hawaii, there's a huge Asian population. Yeah. White people are kind of the minority here. So it's very similar. A lot of those traditions, a lot of the cultural things, a lot of the food, it's very, very mixed here. So
that's so fun.
I met my husband here and my husband is Japanese. So that's a whole
Oh, really?
thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we spend quite a bit of time in Japan too, which is really cool.
Oh, I love Japan. My husband, he's American, but he lived in Japan for 2 years over in Osaka. Wow. He was a stuntman at Universal Osaka.
Oh, right. That's where my husband's from. He's from Osaka too.
That's so cool. Oh, I love that. Japan is such a beautiful country. Oh.
It really is. It really is.
Do you guys travel over there a good amount? I mean, it's a big plane ride, so.
Right. So we try to when we can. We were actually just there. So like right before this whole thing happened and the world basically shut down, we went to Hokkaido for a white Christmas and New Year. It was so beautiful. We went and stayed like in the super countryside with a beautiful traditional onsen, like the hot baths, and did that whole thing.
Amazing.
Oh yeah, it was like a once in a lifetime experience. I feel so grateful that I got to experience that, and I can't wait to go back when I have children.
That's so cool. How long have you guys been married for?
Well, so we've been married for 6 years now. We've been together since we met in 2010 here in Hawaii. It was kind of like a summer whirlwind romance, and then my husband had to go back to Japan because he was here on a working visa. So he's a Finnish carpenter that specializes in Japanese temples and shrines, and he was working on one of the temples here, and so
wow,
his visa was coming to an end. He had to go back, but he ended up overstaying. So he couldn't come back here for 3 years. So we did long distance 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And then he came back to Hawaii, I think in 2014. Yeah, we've been together ever since. It's been a crazy journey with lots of ups and downs. It's by no means perfect at all. And cultural differences are for sure real in a relationship. But he's beautiful, and I'm really grateful to have him in my life. He's been a huge support throughout my whole journey too. So, yeah.
I'm sure. When you first met him, did you kind of know immediately, or did you have any feelings that he was kind of your one for life?
Oh yeah, pretty soon. And it's really crazy because at the time, I mean, he could barely speak English. His English was very limited, but it's crazy, you know, when you're in love, you learn how to communicate very, very quickly.
Absolutely. Totally. Wow. That is so cool. I love that. It's such a cliche saying when you know, but it's so true though. It's so simple and it's so true for those who have experienced it. So your journey then, you are a big follower of the medical medium and his theories and everything. And if I have it correct, you actually healed your acne and kind of reversed your health through medical medium principles. Is that right?
I did.
Wow.
I mean, my healing journey actually started way before I found the medical medium, but I would say the real results and the real deep healing really catapulted when I found him and his information.
Very cool. How did you first stumble upon him?
You know, it's crazy. I know it was in 2000. It was January 2017, and at this point, I had been trying to figure out what was going on with me and trying to heal and trying all these different things for literally about, I think, 6 years, and still wasn't feeling good. And I was on the floor in my kitchen crying and just telling my husband, I'm over it. Like, I just can't do this anymore. I'm just so exhausted and I'm so tired and nothing's working and I just don't know what else to do. Like, I just feel like giving up. I'm going to be sick forever. I think the next morning I was just like scrolling on Instagram aimlessly doing nothing, and I saw this girl's post about her skin, and it was like a before and after picture, and I read her story and it just resonated with me so much, and she had mentioned him, and I just went straight to his page and I was just like, oh my God, like this is it. Like, it just resonated with me on such a deep level and it just made so much sense. And I just wanted to know more. And I literally like ordered all of his books. I think he actually only had 2 books at that time. This was like way before he blew up and is like as major as what he is right now. I didn't know anyone else at the time that knew anything about him and his information. But yeah, I ordered his books and I just got stuck into them and just read everything I could, listened to his podcast, and I basically started like the next day.
That's so cool. I love that. I discovered him, I think it was July of 2018. So almost like a year and a half after you. But yeah, I feel you on, I don't know exactly what it is about his words, and maybe you have a better description of that, but something about him just really resonated with
Yeah.
me. It just like, it clicked outside of any trends, and a lot of it is, well, all of it is told from spirit, and I'm a very spiritual person,
Yeah.
and outside of medical research, which I've always questioned. Doctors are great at saving our lives, but I think there's a lot in between there that gets missed. And
Totally.
yes, something about him, it just was like everything made sense at the time.
Yeah, I think with his information, like it's easy for it to get kind of complicated if you read into it too much, but I mean, it's actually very, very simple,
Mm-hmm.
like and it just makes so much sense. And if you have been sick before, if you have been sick for a really long time and you've gone to all the doctors, you've tried all these other things, you've read all the books, all the research, and tried all the medications and all the recommendations of Western medicine, and none of those have worked for you, you start to see things a little bit differently. It's kind of a hard thing to explain, especially for, some people don't have any health problems. Some people haven't experienced what that feels like. So it's kind of hard for everyone to really kind of grasp that. I think it definitely comes down to individual experience, and some people don't resonate with it at all. Some people
Mm-hmm.
think that it's crazy wizardry, which is fine. But for me, it just clicked for me, and it made so much sense, more than anything else I'd ever heard.
Yeah, totally. What were you, when you were sick, what were you kind of sick with, and what were your symptoms? What were you going through at the time?
So at that time, my acne was really, really bad. I had like the full on cystic acne, like all over my face, not just like the few spots here and there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
every, just once a month before your period. It wasn't like that. It was like 24/7, all
Real
day,
acne.
every day. Oh yeah, like the real deal. And then I also had PCOS. So
Mm.
excruciating period cramps. I mean, I basically had abdominal pain as well, 24/7. It wasn't just before my period. It was always. I was really moody. I had depression, anxiety, weight gain. I mean, just all kinds of things. I had like itchy arms that would get really itchy at nighttime. Would only
Mm.
come at night. Gosh, there's so many other things. I feel like I'm missing them all, but a lot.
Yeah,
But PCOS and acne were for sure my
that's
main
so
issue.
rough. It's
Yeah.
it's interesting how the body, first of all, how it sends signals to us when something deeper is going on, but then
Yeah.
equally just the emotional side of it, and how it can really strip us away from any sense of living our lives to our full potential or achieving happiness. And it just kind of, it owns us in a way.
For sure. I think emotions in general are the most overlooked aspect of any kind of symptom or illness. I think as a society, we tend to think of physical aspects like pain or discomfort or like a rash, like things that we can like see, but,
Mm-hmm.
and even though acne or PCOS is incredibly painful, but the emotional suffering that comes with that really can't be seen is absolutely devastating. And it's exhausting. It's like soul crushing. And I mean, just the emotions alone that come with acne, like depression, social anxiety, humiliation, frustration, self-hate, like I could go on forever. And um, I feel like that was by far the hardest part of it all for me. Dealing with acne was the emotional trauma.
Mm-hmm. Did you find that you were almost like, I know you said the social anxiety kind of like, were any of your relationships affected in the fact that you suddenly didn't want to see people, or didn't want to go to work, or just kind of wanted to hide from the world through all this?
Oh, big time. Like I would say there was like when my skin was at its worst, I think it was like a 2 or 3 year period where I literally didn't see anyone. Like I
Wow.
I wouldn't see my friends, I wouldn't see my family. every invitation, I would turn it down. And it was just because I just felt the anxiety that I would feel having to go and like face these people or see these people and them seeing my face like that. Like, it was just so much, like the stress wasn't worth the actual meeting, right? And that part of it was really exhausting. And I think that it was really hard for me because clearly there was an issue, like there was something major going on with my skin. And I used to get frustrated because so many adults around, everyone would act like there was nothing wrong and that, oh, your skin's fine. Like, I wouldn't have even noticed it if you didn't say anything. And it was almost like frustrating for me because it felt like people were kind of dismissing what was going on. And I was like suffering so bad, right? Almost like it was like denial. Mm-hmm. It's one of the reasons why I love children so much. I've always worked with children and, bless their little cotton socks because they're just so honest, right? They'll just tell you how it is. And at the time I was nannying and these darling kids I used to take care of, they used to call them my polka dots. And they would tell me like, Auntie, your polka dots are coming back again, or your polka dots look so owie. When are your polka dots going to go away? And even though it's very confronting to be, told that even by little children, but it was also like comforting for me because I felt like, well, at least someone's acknowledging this, right? Like it is a problem. It is there.
Exactly. It's like finally someone's being honest with you.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, that's so tough. At the time, what were you kind of trying to do? Was it mostly topical treatments? Were you looking at the diet in any way?
Well, so at the very beginning, I mean, my acne started like even as a teenager. I remember like from the very minute I started going through puberty and like when my period started, I had acne. It wasn't as severe, but I did start getting breakouts and back then, like it was just, you go to the doctor, they put you on the pill. I mean, I was on the pill from 14 years old. Of course, I mean, I wasn't having sex, but it was just for my skin and it was just for my period to help ease the pain. And so I was on and off the pill, from I think 14 until I was about 21 or 20. I tried the topical creams. I tried the antibiotics. I tried every face product under the sun, every spot treatment, every cleanser, every one of them has a different promise of this is the one that's going to fix your skin, right?
Yep.
And even in like my most dramatic, desperate, I don't know what else to do kind of situation, I did Accutane. I did it 2 times. This is coming from someone that has like the most extreme phobia of needles and blood tests. And I pushed through that. Like I had to have blood tests once a month to check and make sure that my organs weren't literally like shutting down. That's how bad that medicine is for you. And pregnancy tests every month, because if you get pregnant on that, your baby could be deformed. And gosh, even talking about that right now, I still cannot believe I did that, but that's how desperate I was. I tried everything.
Yeah. And when it's marketed to you that it is a solution and will work, you're kind of like, okay, cool. I'll try it. Organs, please don't fail me. Like body, I'm sorry, but we've got to do something.
I know. And it's so sad. It's so sad. But it's crazy to me because when I think back to that, all that time and all those years, not once did anyone or any doctor or any dermatologist, no one ever spoke about diet and lifestyle. No one. That just was, it was never a thing. That never came up. It was kind of just like, you need to stay on the pill forever. It wasn't until a little later on when I realized that my acne just kept getting worse and worse and worse. I didn't know at that point that I had PCOS yet. But then I noticed like these other things coming up where like my body started to change. My period disappeared. It was just like gone, but I was still in pain all the time. And I was like on Google 24/7, like researching my symptoms. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? What's happening? And I kind of felt like a crazy person. Like my moods and my emotions were just so all over the place. And I basically self-diagnosed myself on Google. It's like, hey, whatever this PCOS thing is, I think I have it because I have all of the same symptoms that they're talking about. I actually made an appointment with a gynecologist, and I kind of went in there and I was like, look, I think I have this thing, whatever PCOS is. I have all the symptoms. She did an ultrasound, and I'll never forget it. You know how when you have an ultrasound, you can see the image on the screen? So I could see the picture of my ovaries, and they looked like they were full of pearls.
Wow.
Just like covered in pearls. I think my right ovary had, and they're cysts, yeah. I had like 22 on the right, and I think I had 26 on the left, and one of them was the size of a golf ball.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And she was like, yeah, you definitely have PCOS. This is like a very severe case. One of them is the size of a golf ball, and we might have to do surgery to take it out, because if that thing, like, they can explode. And she was like, if that happens, it's really, really not good. So she gave me some kind of steroid medication, and she said to take it, and that it should, like, hopefully it'll help it to reduce and just pass out on its own. But if it doesn't, I was going to have surgery. And she also wanted me to do another surgery as well to check if I had endometriosis. So I was just like, oh my God.
That's so much.
Yeah. And I was like, and, you know, straight away she was just like, but, you know, she was acting like it was like, no big deal. It's super common. Heaps of women get this, but you're basically infertile. You're going to have to go on the pill. That's really the only way to, you know, it'll get rid of all your symptoms, and it will also help your skin too. And it just really crushed me. I mean, even I think the minute she said about the infertility thing, I was just like, it took the breath out of my lungs. I just couldn't, I could barely breathe.
Yeah, it's so crushing.
It is. And for me, like, I love children so much. And for as long as I can remember, like, that's really all I've ever wanted. Like, my whole life, I've just wanted to be a mum. I feel like it's very much tied up in my purpose here on earth, and to be told that is probably not going to happen. And she even told me, she was like, you know, I highly suggest that, I was like 20 or 21. She was like, I highly suggest that you start saving for IVF because it's really, really expensive. And I was just like, holy crap, lady, like, what a way to talk to your patients, you know, like, it seems so insensitive. And
you were so young at the time too. That's such a young age.
So young. And right then and there, I just knew, like, this does not feel right to me. Like, I'd already done some research about PCOS before going into her office, right? And I'd found a lot of stuff about changing up your diet and, you know, reducing your sugar and your dairy, and that it can really make a huge difference. So I tried to bring it up with her, and she basically laughed at my face, just didn't want to hear it, and was like, you either take the pill or you're an idiot and you don't care about your health. So I basically walked out of her office and was just like, I guess I'm on my own. I got to figure this out. I'm going to do more research, and I am going to do what feels right for me. And I don't think that is with this kind of a doctor.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's brave. It's a really hard step to take too, when you've learned so much information so quickly, life-changing information. And at the time, like, the most devastating stuff. I mean, health is so scary, and it kind of takes really being there in that chair, sitting in your own shoes to truly understand when it suddenly does become like a life-altering thing. And then to be able to be told that you know, won't have children, and just, it's amazing. But at the same time though, was there any inkling inside of you, which sounds like there might've been, that kind of was like, nope, I'm going to beat this. There's another way. I still will have children one day? Or at the time, did you just feel completely devastated?
Well, it's funny because I did feel completely devastated and like I just had no idea what to do next and how is this going to work and just like, what am I going to do? Back then, I was not in a very good emotional state. I was very just tired and exhausted and just over it, that I wasn't in the most positive kind of mind frame. I was very much kind of like victim mentality, you know, just why is this happening to me? This is so unfair. Like no one else. And the thing too is that I didn't know anyone else in my life that had dealt with this. I'd never even heard of this before. No one else around me was having health issues. No one else was sick. No one else had symptoms. So I think I felt very isolated and very alone and almost kind of like ashamed and embarrassed to be so young and having like such gnarly health experiences already. I was just like, what is going on? But I think at the same time, there was like a little spark inside of me that was kind of like, my intuition knew that there was going to be a way around this and that I was going to figure it out and that it was going to be really hard and it's probably going to take a really long time. At this time too, my husband was still in Japan, so that was really hard as well. But I think deep down, I knew I was going to get through it. I just didn't know how. But I knew there was definitely another way, not just in taking medicine.
Absolutely. That's so hard too, because connection, as a lot of us have maybe found more so right now than ever, but at the same time, connection is so important. And really having core relationships in our life it helps move us through life. And then it also is just such an like innate part of being, especially when you're going through periods like that, and to then feel on top of it so alone. And I'm sure you also, I know you said you felt ashamed, probably even embarrassed to talk to anybody about it, because it's just not a normal thing at such a young age to go through that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so hard. And unfortunately, it's really increasing in our society now, I think, is the scarier thing, the way chronic illness is on the rise. I actually learned a fact the other day that our children, and probably children who are being born in our life right now, I don't know the exact date range on it, but our children are expected to have shorter lifespans than we will. And that's the first time ever. And that is just so scary.
Absolutely. And I mean, even just that, like, it's one of the things that I'm most grateful for in this journey of mine, and having to figure this all out and coming up with, a way to take care of my body and feel good and, know how to do certain things to heal, because I feel like it's not just beginning and ending with me. Like, the way I look at it is that I'm breaking a cycle in my family and in my generations, those before me and those after me. Like, I can teach all of this to my children, and, I can teach them how to take care of their bodies and how to treat their body like it's their temple, and why it's so important, so that they know how to take care of themselves. We live in a very, very toxic world, and we can't really control that. There's certain things we can do. Knowing how to take care of ourselves in this day and age, like, it's more important than ever. It really is.
It's
and
so important.
Tools makes all the difference.
Yeah. Oh, you gave me goosebumps there. I love that, what you said about breaking the cycle for your family and ancestry and everything.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about, right? It's so much more than just ourselves as individuals.
It's almost as if your health journey and everything that has happened, I believe that things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And it's even though you've had to endure so much pain, it's your role in this lifetime to then make that shift for those who are coming up behind you.
Yes, I believe that wholeheartedly as well. And it's funny because when you're actually in it, when you're in the depths of it and it's just so hard and it's so painful, like, that is not how you're thinking about it, right? It's
not at all.
Complete opposite. But that's the most beautiful part of coming out the other end. And you really do, I think you really do have to go through all of those emotions and all of those feelings to be able to see things a different way when you come out the other end. And it really is so worth it. It's so, so worth it. And it all makes sense in the end.
It is. It makes every hard moment
Yep.
worth it. Yeah.
Yep.
So then with your journey, you then kind of started taking matters into your own hands and started kind of doing your own research. With that, did you find that even though maybe you didn't have physical connection with people there with you presently, were you able to find like a different sense of connection with in your research people online who had gone through similar things or finding other individuals who are also going through illness?
Yeah, so I mean, for sure, that is the beauty of technology. As much as there's so many things about it that I really don't like, that for sure really, really helped me. Just being able to see that there were other people out there going through the same thing, feeling the same things, dealing with the same symptoms, and people out there were healing too. So it kind of gave me the faith to kind of keep pushing through and keep researching and finding what works for me. But it was definitely still like a really long process, because from that point, I just started making like little changes little by little. And at the time, I didn't really realize it, but I think for sure it was my intuition, like getting me on the right track. Because I remember I first started, like way before I even found the medical medium, I already started cutting out eggs. I started cutting out dairy. I stopped eating sugar. I stopped eating gluten. Those are all things that he recommends, right?
Yeah.
I kind of intuitively done that along my journey, just as a process of elimination. Like, okay, well, I'm going to try this one. Oh, my skin's still not clearing up. Okay, now I'm going to cut out dairy. Still not clearing up. Now I'm going to cut out this. And I just kind of did that little by little. Things started to get a little bit better, but never like 100%. For a while, I started seeing a naturopathic doctor, and she was really great. She helped me a lot with the PCOS. She helped to bring my period back with acupuncture and some different herbal supplements, but it was very, very expensive. And I didn't feel like I wanted to be on that many supplements every day. It didn't feel sustainable to me, and my skin still wasn't clearing. So I stopped.
How many were you on at the time, or what were you on exactly?
I can't remember all of them, but I remember I was on Chase Tree Berry. I think that one was really great for me. She had me on vitamin D. She had me on, I don't remember the names. There were all these weird fancy names, and they all tasted so bad, and it just wasn't working for me. So I just stopped doing all of that, and I just little by little just kept making changes to my diet, to the point where I was basically only eating fresh and no processed food, but I was still eating meat, like good quality meat, good quality fish, still eating quite a bit of oil. Everything else I'd kind of stripped away. And just things were popping up for me all over the place, like plant-based diet, you should try cutting back on the meat, the fish. But I was so resistant to it because I love meat and I love fish. Like, how can you live in Hawaii and not eat fish?
Right.
Now, like, you got to live a little, right?
Yeah.
That's how I was kind of justifying it to myself. And it was really hard because I was kind of in this, like, I think I was in this deprivation mindset of like, oh my God, like this, for the last 5 years, all I have done is stripped away every single food that I love and enjoy. Like I love food. And I was just so focused on like, I'm just like going without. I've taken all these foods away. I have no like enjoyment around my food now. And now I'm going to take away meat and fish as well. Like what? So I'm only going to eat fruits and vegetables? Like, come on.
Yeah. It's like, what is life if,
yes. Seriously. So I was just like, oh, is that really what I have to do? But deep down, I knew that it made sense to me. Like I knew why that actually would be a good thing, because I could feel it, but I didn't know why. And then that's when shortly after, that's when I found the medical medium, and it all made sense. It all validated what my intuition was trying to tell me. I did remove the meat. I did remove the fish, and I stopped cooking with oil. So I lowered my fats big time and just focused on all the fruits and veggies and healing wild foods. And that when I started getting my results. And I think what the thing was there, like the key little bit of magic in what the medical medium, what his information did for me was learning like why those foods that I'd already cut out, why they were not helping my body to heal, like at a cellular level, like what was happening inside the body when I would eat those foods. And once I learned all of those things, my whole mindset shifted to like, I don't feel deprived. I feel grateful to know this information, and I'm choosing not to eat those foods anymore because I don't want that happening inside my body, you know?
Yes.
And then I no longer wanted to eat those foods. I didn't feel bad about it. I didn't crave them. And I was just ready to go.
I love that. It's almost like you needed the information to understand like the why behind it. And then once you start looking at your body as something that it is a working machine, it is our vessel, and putting the right fuel in it and understanding the ways that we were previously hurting it, it just kind of shifts immediately. I think it's interesting too when it comes to trusting our intuitions. Like I was just saying recently, I think last week to my husband, I was like, I'm so done not trusting my intuition because I proved to myself every single time that I knew what I needed to do along the way. But in certain circumstances like yours, sometimes you just need that extra level of gratification or assurance to know, oh, okay, everything I was thinking and feeling, that is what I should do, such as landing upon his information.
Yeah. Especially when it comes down to this kind of stuff too, I think because it goes against everything we've been taught our whole lives, right? It goes against everything that the mainstream media talks about. It goes against everything that, you know, people's family traditions and the foods we've grown up with and all these habits and emotions that are tied around these foods. It's like if you're going to stop doing that and you're not going to eat these certain foods, you're doing something very different to what the majority are doing. And that's not easy. It's not easy.
Absolutely. Sometimes you almost just have to kind of, like you said, just stop telling people, just kind of like shut off, do your thing, and then show them the end result. Actually, Gabby Bernstein talks about that I think it's Super Attractor, of how when you're doing, have you read that book?
Yes, I love it.
It's so good, where she says like, I think it's how when you're doing something and people ask you like what you've been up to, you're not obligated to tell them. You can just kind of hold it close to you that, hey, this means so much to me. I can't explain it right now, but one day I'll be able to show you. And I just think it's so true. And food is just so, I mean, as a society, we've been taught so many different things, and then just everyone's relationship with food. Like for me, I hate eating in like groups of people or at a restaurant. If somebody says like, oh, are you only having a salad, or why are you eating that? And they question it. And it's obviously something that they're dealing with internally, but at the same time, it's so rude. It's like, mind your manners. I'm eating what I'm eating for a reason. My body's not your body. And it's just so weird, the almost like judgments in a way that people place on food and eating habits and control. It's crazy.
Big time. I remember even what was really hard for me is like, so sometimes when I would go places, so here in Hawaii, like outdoor like get-togethers and barbecues, like it's everything here. That's what everyone does. It's just like that's the normal thing here. And food is a big deal here in Hawaii. Everything is about food. All social gatherings, everything social is all around food. And so it's usually like potluck style, where everyone will like bring a dish or whatever, and you just kind of take what you like. And
so fun.
Every time I would go to any kind of like family thing or whatever, people would pressure me to eat certain things, like just have a bite or just have a little bit, and people not really understanding, like, you don't get it. You don't think I've tried 5 million times to just have a little bit?
Right.
If I could, I would, but it makes me feel like crap, and then it takes me 3 days to recover after. Like, I wake up in the morning feeling like I got hit by a bus. When you clean up your eating this much, foods affect you differently when you try to eat that old way again. And
so much differently.
It's hard to explain that to people that haven't, actually experienced it for themselves, because there aren't really any words for it. It's the way it makes you feel. And I think that was really hard for me as well. And I used to get really, really upset when that would happen. It almost felt like kind of like bullying a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And like I felt like I needed to just do it so that I'm not being rude, or I don't want to come across as like I'm being a brat. So I'll just eat some to kind of keep the peace and everyone will shut up. But then I would end up paying the price later, right?
And that's not fair to you.
And it's absolutely not. So eventually I stopped doing that, and that was when I really just like stayed home and did my own thing and just buckled down and focused on myself and stopped worrying about what other people thought of me. I just wanted to feel better.
Yeah, it's so brave. That takes so much willpower to do that. Now, do you go to social functions? Do you bring your own food or eat beforehand?
I'm not the most social person in the world. I like my own time. I like my own space. I'm such a homebody. I love being at home.
I'm the same way. I feel you.
Isn't it so good? Once you finally get to the point where you just really don't care what other people think anymore, it's almost kind of scary, because it's like, okay, now I'm saying no way too much. I probably should start saying yes sometimes. Like finding that balance is really hard. But yeah, when I do, I'll usually have a massive smoothie before I go anywhere. I'll always keep like a few pieces of fruit in my car or in my bag so that I never get hungry, because I've learned that if you let yourself get really, really hungry, then you'll pretty much take whatever is there, and it's not necessarily what is going to make you feel your best. So I try to plan something or prepare something before I go. If I do go to a barbecue or a social thing where I know there's going to be food, I always bring like a big platter. Like I'll bring a huge salad, not just for myself. I bring for like everyone, huge salad or a huge fruit platter, or just something fresh that I know I'm going to be able to eat. And you know what? It's so funny because everyone always loves it. Like I went to the last barbecue that I went to a couple months ago. Everyone was grilling like all these like steak and sausages, and there's like fish, absolutely delicious. It smelled so good. I still look at that kind of food and I'm like, oh, what I would do. But it was mostly just all of that, all the brown and white foods. Yeah. And then I brought this big colorful salad, and everyone here in Hawaii, like before you eat, everyone kind of usually stands around and does like, everyone holds hands and you kind of do like a blessing of all the food. Just to show your gratitude and stuff. And everyone was just commenting on the salad. And everyone was just like, wow, like that salad. I can't wait to eat that salad. Like everyone was just like drooling over it. And it just goes to show, like, I think a lot of people don't make that kind of food because it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of preparation. You got to cut up all the stuff. You have to wash everything. Like it does take time. But when it's right there in front of you, that beautiful, colorful salad with all of that living food, I think that is naturally what our bodies and our senses gravitate to. I'm a huge believer in that. And you know what? That salad and my plate of fruit, they were the only plates in the whole like smorgasbord of stuff that were completely empty.
Oh my gosh, I love that. It's so true. It's almost as if their bodies were like needing it. Kind of like if you haven't watered a plant in a while and it's just like, please give me water. It's kind of like the same thing.
Yeah. So I've really grown to kind of love that and kind of think of it that way when I do go socializing and when I do go to some kind of like event where there's going to be food. I get really excited to just make my style of food and to bring it, because I feel like whether anyone really knows it or not or believes it, like I'm nourishing all of them and I'm providing their bodies with really good stuff that their bodies probably desperately, are wanting and craving, and they always enjoy it. So
that's so beautiful.
Yeah, I've learned to kind of focus on those kinds of things now and less on what people are really thinking about me. More of like, oh, how can I use this and what I've learned to kind of help others? And I love nothing more than making food for the people that I love.
That's so amazing. That's so inspiring too. What a gorgeous mindset shift. Have you found that in your own kitchen? Because I know a lot of, or just kind of the common, maybe more traditional mindset is, oh, you're eating rabbit food, or what do you really eat? Just lettuce and carrots. But what I found is really in following these recipes, you almost have more food freedom in the kitchen, in that you can be so much more creative. There's so many different combinations and ways to replace like the gluten and the dairy, or replace the meats and different things. Are there certain recipes or foods that you love just kind of playing around with?
Oh, yes, everything. I mean, I totally agree with what you are saying, because once I really got into this, and, I've healed so much and I feel so great, like it's become a lifestyle for me. Like I feel like I will eat like this and now until the day I die. And I love it. I really, really love it. And my kind of mentality about all of this has been like, okay, so this is kind of my new norm now. This is what I'm doing. This is what I love. I know the foods that work for me and the foods that don't. And all the dishes from the past that I love, I can recreate them just using different ingredients. If I want lasagna, like I can make myself a lasagna, but I just substitute the ingredients and use different things so that it's clean and it's going to feel good when I eat it, right? There's so many different things now and so many ways of substituting different ingredients to make it work. You can still have such delicious food. I enjoy my food now more than I ever have before. And that's not to say that I'm never going to have a cheeseburger again. I joke with my husband and I tell him, so I used to eat a lot of McDonald's. A lot of people don't believe it, but I love Macca's. And I joke with my husband and I tell him, if anything ever happens to me where I'm like on my deathbed and I'm dying, but I can still eat, like, do you promise me you will go to Macca's and get me a cheeseburger? Because that's all I want. I will have another cheeseburger before the day I die. But no, so yeah, I love, it's my greatest passion now is cooking. I love making food. I love just all the colors of this fresh produce, all of these fruits and veggies that grow on the earth, like, to nourish our bodies, and they literally contain everything that we need, and it makes eating food, for me, like, it's made eating food so much more meaningful. Just like knowing what each specific ingredient is doing inside my body, it makes me so excited. And if it was up to me, I could just stay in the kitchen all day making food.
I love that. Did you enjoy cooking before all of this?
No, so I never cooked. And it's the funniest thing, because I grew up my dad used to be a chef. So he used to make incredible food. I've always loved food, but I never really cooked. My mum made really good food as well growing up, but it was a lot of like really rich, heavy comfort food. When I moved out of the house, I was super young. I actually got kicked out of home.
Oh my gosh.
I got kicked out of home when I was really young. And obviously, like, paying rent on my own and stuff, like, I had no money. So it was all just fast food, right? Or eating toast. I could never afford to like do proper groceries and cook for myself. And then when I moved back here, I was in university, or I think you guys call it college. I was in college. I was working 3 jobs to pay my way through school and just afford to even live here. There just wasn't in the cards for me. I was the same thing. I was eating fast food, just McDonald's, junk, crap, cigarettes, and I just never cooked. It wasn't until I started changing my lifestyle and I realized, like, there are no places to buy food like this. I mean, if there is, it's like kind of fake and it has all kinds of stuff added to it. But if you want to eat this way, your best bet is to really do it on your own so that you know exactly what's going in the food, right?
Yeah.
And it just grew into, because my appreciation, I started looking at food so differently. I really started appreciating the process of what these plants go through in order to grow and, to nourish our bodies. Yeah, that appreciation and that gratitude for all of these beautiful foods just grew so strong for me that I feel like even the way I hold them and touch them, like I handle them with so much care, and it's it's become such a therapeutic, almost I would say like a meditation for me. I know that sounds like straight crazy, but I mean, I look forward to going and doing my food shopping every week, and I enjoy every minute of it. It's the craziest thing ever. I never would have expected that this would be my life.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. And I think it's funny, because it does sound crazy, but at the same time, once you experience it, it isn't crazy, and it is meditative, and it is like a new way of mindfulness. And I think equally your body responds to that as well. With obviously you spend a lot of time in the kitchen now. Have you had to adjust your schedule, or do you do anything to kind of prep ahead of time?
That's a really great question. So I think that is such a loaded question. I could talk for hours about this, and it is definitely like, I don't care what anybody says, it is a labor of love. It's bloody hard work. It takes hours of time. It is not, eating this way is not, it's not easy, and it takes a lot of time and care. And for me, that's totally worth it. It's not for everyone, right? So I understand why everyone doesn't eat this way. I mean, I totally get it. But and it's hard. That's why I'm loving this time so much, because I have all the time in the world to just take my time with it, right? In the normal 9-to-5 grind, so the past year that I had a really, really, really crazy work schedule. I was teaching second grade full time, and I also had like a full-time nannying job at the same time. So I was just constantly, like, my day would start at 4:30 in the morning, and I wouldn't sit down until 9 o'clock at night. So eating the way that I usually would, with all the juices, all the smoothies, all the, regular stuff, it was really, really hard to do. And I found myself lacking in many departments just because I was so tired. I did not have the energy to do it. So these last few months have been just such a huge reset for me. I feel like definitely doing grocery shopping like once a week. That's how I do it. I'll buy all my groceries once a week. I don't plan really what I'm going to buy. I've been doing this for a while, that I know what I need, and I just buy whatever looks really, really fresh. And then I create all of my meals just with what I have, because I enjoy the creative process of that. But definitely, once I buy all my produce, I wash everything and prep it all so that it's ready in the fridge to go. And that makes it so much faster. So if I am going to make a salad, it's already washed, everything's already ready. I just have to cut it up, chuck it all in, and we're like good to go. That definitely takes the hours of labor out of it. But then when it comes to like juicing and stuff, it is what it is. It takes time, it takes effort. It's a lot of cleanup work. Even just the cleaning a juicer, it's no joke. It is really a full-time job.
Completely. It's so worth it, but gosh.
So worth it. And I think in life, it's a lesson in life that goes for so many things. The things that we put our time and effort and love into, they always reap the benefits, you get what you put in. And I really feel that way about this lifestyle.
It's so true. I even try to, when I feel like, oh my gosh, I have to juice, I have to chop my veggies, wash my veggies, everything. I hit a weird point where I was trying to kind of like rush through things. And then now I actually have kind of found a mindful practice in that really focusing in on exactly what I'm doing, how I'm cutting the vegetables, and kind of trying to reinstate that labor of love. And I found that it helps, and it doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, why am I always in the kitchen? It's more enjoyable now.
Yeah, I think I definitely feel like what you just said, like my time in the kitchen where I am just doing like simple things, just like washing my celery or cutting up my tomatoes for in my salad. I find it's like those little pockets of the day where it's just like stillness and relaxation, where you can just kind of like decompress for a little minute, And it feels good. Even if it is just for a couple minutes, it feels really good.
Totally. It feels so good. So what do you do celery juice in the morning? Is that right?
Yep. So I do, when I wake up, the first thing I do is I drink lemon water with ginger and raw honey. And then about half an hour later, then I drink my celery juice. And then another half an hour later, then I have like a massive smoothie. So usually it's, I'll do frozen bananas, dragon fruit, wild blueberries, heaps of spinach. So you always want to pack your smoothies. If you're having lots of fruit, you always want to balance it out with greens. Yeah. So heaps of greens and then dates. And I make like a really big one, like 64 ounces. I don't do just like a glass. Otherwise it doesn't fill me up. So I'll sip on that kind of like all morning. And then for a snack, I'll have just fruit. Usually I'll have like maybe like 4 papayas. We're heading into summer now, so the fruit is getting so good. Heaps of mangoes super early on in the season too. So I'm so excited. But yeah, lunch I'll usually have another big smoothie. I like to just eat mostly like fruit and greens for my whole morning. That's how I like feel my best and have heaps of energy. But my lunch smoothie is usually, have you heard of Medical Medium's The Heavy Metal Detox Smoothie? Do you do that one?
Yes, I have. Yes, I love it. Yeah.
Me too. I love it so much now, but it took me so long to like it. Like when I first started, like having salty dull seaweed and cilantro in my smoothie, I was just like, I can't do it. I used to gag so hard.
Yeah. So for me, it didn't bother me too much. I actually weirdly liked it, but my husband, I had him start drinking them at the same time. And he's someone who was not on the same wavelength at all. And he was like, are you kidding me? Like, and then with spirulina, and he was like, there's no way I can do this. And now he craves them every morning. He has to have it. So
it's really interesting. It becomes like an acquired taste. Yeah. It's like comforting, but yeah, I love that one too. So usually I'll have that for lunch. And then for a snack after lunch and between dinner, I'll usually just have more fruit. And then dinner is always like a massive salad, like big salad. With like I do like a tahini dressing and then some kind of potatoes on the side. So I'll either do like roast potatoes or baked potatoes or steamed potatoes or mashed potato. But I really enjoy having some cooked food at nighttime. A lot of people in the medical medium community, I'm sure you've heard, like a lot of people like eat no fat at all. But that doesn't work for me. I was never going to give up my avocado.
Yes.
I love avocado way too much. I love my tahini dressing. It works for me. And I think that's the biggest lesson in all of this. I think for everyone, everybody's bodies are so different. And, I get people DMing me all the time wanting to know like exactly what I eat, exactly what ingredients I use. And I always tell them like, this is what I do, but it doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Like you have to listen to your body. You have to pay attention to how your body feels and reacts to certain ingredients and things that you eat, and go from there. If you're eating a tahini dressing at nighttime and then after your tummy is like spazzing out and you don't feel good, well, maybe that's not working for you, right? Or I might eat potatoes every night for dinner, but that might not feel good for someone else, So I think instead of trying to get rely on other people for, whatever they did, I just need to find out what that was and then I'll do that and then I'll turn out with the same result. I don't think it always goes that way. And I think the magic in this kind of journey the magic comes when you can get inside yourself and start reading your body's messages. It's always communicating with us. And if you really listen and pay attention, you can totally tell what's working and what's not and what you need more of and utilize that. And, don't take that for granted, because I feel like, how people always ask that question in like different things, especially they do it to children. Like if you could have any superpower, like what would it be?
Yeah.
I really believe like our intuition, that is our superpower. It's our superpower. I think as human beings, that is our superpower. We may not be able to fly, we might not be able to walk on water, but our intuitions are something else. And I think that the faster we can tap into that, that's where you get your results. And that's where you start to see the major shifts and changes. And it's so cool.
I truly believe that. It's so, so cool. I think we're all so much more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. And it's like that saying, like the answer is already within you, but it's kind of like medical medium. Like it's so simple. The most simple things are actually the ones that make the most sense, like mind and body.
Yeah, I agree.
So your husband, is he full medical medium? Does he eat other things? Kind of how is that relationship?
No, so so he's not full medical medium, and honestly, I think this is another topic that a lot of people don't talk about too much, and I think it's a really, really important one, because when you're in a relationship and one person makes such a radical change, right? That's not easy for the other person at all. And I'm really, really, really lucky. My husband is, honestly, he's an angel, and he's been my biggest support through all of this. When I made my transition to plant-based, he was right by my side from the very beginning, and he did it with me. So to make it easier for me, he was like, let's do it together. I'll do it with you. And he actually really, really loved it. So he just felt like he was thriving. He was eating completely plant-based like me, but he was still eating a lot more grains. So I cut out grains completely. He would still, a Japanese man is never not going to have his white rice, right? that was a non-negotiable. So he would still have his rice and his noodles and stuff, and some cooked food, but he just felt amazing. He really loved it too. And that made it so much easier for me, not having to cook like 2 separate meals and stuff like that. So that was like when I was like in the depths of my healing for about like probably a 2-year period. And then I think it was a huge learning experience for me too, because at some point he started transitioning a little bit, where he was like, like, I've been craving some fish, I've been craving some meat. Like sometimes he loves like bread and pastries and like donuts and stuff. Mm-hmm. So sometimes we'd be at Whole Foods and he's not a sweet tooth, he'd get like the plain donuts, and I'd be kind of like, oh, you shouldn't eat that. Like it's not good for you. It's, all this. And I kind of found myself in a situation where I was kind of being judgmental towards him. And I was just like, oh my God, like that is so not okay. Like I have to stop doing that. He can eat whatever he wants. And I didn't want to be like this controlling person, but mm-hmm. It's so hard when you learn this information and what these foods are doing. Like it's so hard. It's coming from a place of love and care, right? Like I want you to be healthy. I don't want you to eat foods that I know are going to, that are just not serving you. But I realized pretty quickly that that's not my place, and it's not the role I wanted to play in our relationship. So now we have a really good situation. At home, he eats all plant-based mostly the same way that I do. He came to me on his own wanting to do the celery juice. He was like, when you make your celery juice, can you make it for me as well? I was like, of course. It makes me so excited. I have to try not to like freak out, because I get so excited when he, when he like comes through on his own, he wants to do it. He does the heavy metal detox smoothie as well, which is really awesome. And he does what works for him. So when I don't like cook meat or fish or like oily stuff at home, but if he wants to eat that, he'll go and buy that and have it for lunch or something. But it's pretty rare. Every once in a while he'll do that. I will say traveling is difficult.
I was going to ask you about that when being in Japan, especially in Asia.
Yeah, so usually we gravitate to like tropical, beautiful island destinations, which is never a problem, because anywhere tropical, there's always going to be an abundance of fruit, all the fresh coconuts, and it's really easy for me to kind of eat the way I like to eat. But when we were in Japan just recently, it was really, really difficult. And he just ate everything. He was so stoked to have his kind of food again. And I was so happy for him. He had such a good time eating. But for me, I struggled big time because, number one, it was the middle of winter. So there really wasn't very much fresh produce. Like there wasn't a lot of fruit. There wasn't that many veggies. And Japanese, the way the Japanese eat is so different to
different. It's
Western culture. It's like little bites of 500 different things. Yeah, it's not like a whole salad or like a huge plate of fruit like how we would do here. So I really struggled. I mean, I really had no choice but to eat a lot of rice. While I was there, I tried my best to just not worry about it and just enjoy it. I mean, it was so yum, but I really paid for it when we came back. It took me like a few months to get, like, I noticed a huge difference in the way I was feeling. I felt very dehydrated, and I just felt really like backed up.
Mm-hmm.
But we had the best trip, and you got to live a little, right?
Totally.
I never want to get myself into, a mindset where I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going back to Japan again because I can't eat the way I usually eat. I think it's really important to learn how to kind of adjust and just be okay with, okay, this is going to look a little different for the next couple of weeks. And then when I come home, then I, go back to my normal way of doing things and I'll feel better. And it's just temporary, right?
Absolutely.
But, yeah, it is tricky. I mean, my husband and I have definitely had moments where it has been hard, and that's where I think communication definitely comes into it, and me learning to really just remember that just because this is my journey and this is what I'm doing, it's not necessarily his, right? He can do his own thing, and I just want to be as supportive of him as he has been to me.
I think it's really hard when you love someone so much. And of course, you always have their best intention at the forefront of everything you do. And then you learn all this information of how bad and really, I mean, the food will kill you more or less, not to be like super vulgar, but that's kind of the reality of what will happen. And then to like that balance of wanting to be like, oh my gosh, force it upon them, but you can't force it upon them. Like, I love the fact that he naturally came to you for the celery juice, which is so important and really sustainable as well. Yeah. It's so difficult. I'm sure you guys have had ups and downs.
It's a really delicate dance. I mean, even, I often tell my husband too, I'm like, after learning all this information and everything that I know now, it's almost like one of those things where sometimes it can almost feel like a bit of a curse, because it's like once you know it, you can't unknow it after that. And it's really hard to just like live in denial and go back to doing all the things you used to do before when you didn't know any better. And then when you have people around you, like I have so many people around me that are like super sick and having all kinds of health problems and health issues, some like kind of severe, like cancer and these kinds of things. And it's really hard to know like where do you draw that line where you share the information and just put it out there, and then just, of course, they can do whatever they want with it. But like to not say anything at all feels like, I don't know if I can live with myself if I don't say anything. But then at the same time, being okay with the fact that the chances are pretty high that they're going to be like, okay, thank you, but no thank you, right? And just being okay with that.
Right. It's so hard. It's all, you feel like you're like robbing them if you don't tell them. But then at the same time, when you tell them, and maybe it's just not, it has to resonate with you for sure. Like if it doesn't resonate with you, it's pretty much not going to work. But yeah, it's just really hard, especially when you feel like you're holding this like gold mine in your hands of like, I can cure you. I have the power. But at the end of the day, it's their decision. It's so hard.
Oh, it's so nice to talk to someone that gets it. I haven't met a lot of people that I can like talk to about this stuff that really understand and don't just think I'm a psycho.
Like crazy. Yeah, completely. No, I totally get it. What foods do you think, well, maybe not necessarily, let me back up on that. What foods have been the most impactful in your life, or do you think that you've received the most like healing benefits from?
That's a hard question. It's hard because I can tell you a list of foods that I know are really great and really helped, but I don't think I can like single out a specific food and be like, oh, that is what healed my skin, because I'm really a huge believer in it's all the little individual things that we do that all add up together and make a big difference. And it's not something that you probably see like straight away, like, oh, I ate a papaya this morning and then yesterday, like the next day I wake up and my skin is crystal clear. I don't think it works like that, but I'll definitely say that the things that I've been most consistent with when it comes to foods, I would say for sure the celery juice. I did a period of about just this last year when I was so busy. I just literally had no time in the morning to do it. I think I went about 4 months without celery juice, and the difference was brutal. Like I don't even know where to start with that. So I know for sure the celery juice. I juiced a lot of burdock root, which I think really, really helped big time in cleaning out my liver. For sure watermelon juice, because a lot of this healing really, I think, is just flushing all the shit out, you know,
totally
just years and years of accumulated crap in there, just flushing it all out. And that's why juicing is so amazing. It's not a trend. It's not it's not a trendy thing. Like it's real juice. That's why it's so good, because it just flushes everything out. And the more of the junk you get out, the better you feel. I think for sure the lemon water every morning. I drink lemon water every night as well before I go to bed. And then the wild blueberries, fresh aloe, and papayas. I would say those are like my staples that I've probably eaten every single one of those every day for the last 3 or 4 years.
Wow. That's incredible. It's interesting that you do the lemon water before bed.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that before. It kind of almost just like, I guess, cleanses your system before you then go to sleep after everything.
Right. And then, so I think the reason why the lemon water at night is really good as well, it was when I learned about, so what our liver does at night while we're sleeping. So between 10 o'clock at night and 2 a.m. in the morning, that is like the peak hours of our sleep. That's like the best time you want to get in for our sleeping, because after that, the liver wakes up early in the morning and starts doing all the deep cleaning while we're sleeping, because it doesn't have to focus on anything else. So it starts doing all the cleaning and gets everything ready. And then in the morning, when we wake up, all of the stuff that it's just been working on overnight and cleaning out, that's all been released into our blood. So when we wake up in the morning, our blood is like basically toxic that has all this crap in it that the liver just released. And that I find that drinking that lemon water at night, it kind of helps to keep it diluted. Yeah. So it's not super concentrated. And so I feel really good when I wake up in the morning and the first thing I do is go to the bathroom and pee it all out. And you're just flushing it all out. It's all coming straight out, instead of if you're not hydrated at night and early in the morning, your liver will suck it all back in.
Which is so scary to think about.
Right. And we want to get that stuff out. Like that's what this is all about, is getting that stuff out. So yeah, I highly recommend the lemon water at nighttime.
That's so cool. I'm definitely going to start doing that.
Yeah, give it a try and let me know. Tell me if you feel a difference. I promise you will.
Totally. No, I definitely will. In your journey, you mentioned that the healing doesn't happen overnight and the results don't happen overnight. And I completely agree with that. It's a long journey and one that you have to be patient with. It's not like a magic pill. What was that kind of like timeline like for you?
Oh gosh, even just thinking back on it, it was torture. It was just torture, because I remember reading all these things online, especially like heaps of people in the medical medium community that would like write these posts and do these stories and be like, oh, I've been drinking celery juice for a week and all my problems are gone. You know, I'm like fully healed and back to normal. And I'm just like, wait, what? Like, I can't imagine that is being possible. Or like, they're so lucky, because for me, it did not go that way at all. When I started doing all of this, I got way worse before I got better. Like maybe the first couple weeks, I started feeling really good and I lost heaps of weight, and I just felt like a heightened sense of clarity. And then a couple months later, I mean, my skin was on fire. Like my skin got way worse before it got better. And at the time, I had no idea what was going on. I was kind of just like, what is happening? My skin's getting worse. Is this not working? But like, I knew deep down that I was doing the right thing, because it just felt so right. And I knew I was only putting good stuff into my body, but I was like, why is it getting worse? Like, why is it not just getting better? And it was like that for like a good year and a half. I didn't start my skin didn't start clearing up until like 2 years later.
Wow.
Everything else felt really good, but my skin didn't clear up for 2 years. And that was like being super consistent and doing all of the things and following all of the recommendations. I never went too crazy with all like the supplements. It just felt like a little too much for me. And I felt like the supplements kind of made it a little bit harder sometimes, because it can make you detox like really, really quickly, and then you can get sick. So I just kind of focused on the foods. But yeah, it was a long, drawn out process for me. And at the time, I remember thinking like, hey, I'm putting in so much work. I'm doing all of these things. It's exhausting and it's not easy. And I'm still not, my skin is still a mess. How long am I going to keep doing this for? And I would say it wasn't really until I started focusing on the emotions too that things rapidly started clearing up. But I would say that all the PCOS stuff was really interesting because my main focus throughout it all was all really my acne. Mm-hmm. And all the changes that I made, all the good things that I was doing for my body, they simultaneously took care of the PCOS at the same time. And I wasn't even like aware of it, but I remember a couple of months after I started, my period just came back and I was like, oh my God, I have not had my period for like, I think I didn't have my period for like a year and a half. Wow. And I got my period back. And then it was like the next month after that, my period came again, and it was like exactly 28 days to a T, which never happened for me. And I remember telling my husband, I was just like, oh my God, I just got my period and I didn't even know it was coming because I didn't have any cramps. Like usually that's how I would know it was coming soon, because I'd be in so much pain. I was like, I didn't have any cramps. And then just consecutively, month after month, my period was just like coming every 28 days like clockwork. And I had no pain and I had no irregularities. It was just so smooth and fluid. And I was just like, whoa, this is pretty crazy.
So incredible.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Have you been back to your doctor to check like with your PCOS and to get any full body checkups to see how everything is?
No. So I've actually never been back to a doctor ever since I went to had that experience with that lady. But it was funny because when I did change over to the naturopath, they wanted my medical records from her, and she was like being all weird about it. She didn't want to send my medical records to the naturopath until I came back for another like consultation kind of thing. She wanted me to come back in there and talk to her before she would release my records. And I was like,
so messed up.
I don't need to come back. I don't want to come back. There's nothing really to talk about. My naturopath ended up having to actually call her and be like, I need her records now. Like, that's illegal. You can't withhold that information. And then she eventually did. And then I bumped into that doctor at Whole Foods.
Oh my gosh.
It was so awkward, but she saw me and she was just like, I think she was kind of shocked. I was super nice. I said hi, and she had little kids that were with her, and I was talking to her kids, and she was asking me like how I was doing, and she told me that I looked really great. And yeah, it was weird.
Oh my gosh. So funny the way the universe works sometimes.
I know. But yeah, I haven't been to a doctor since. I just don't feel like I need to. I feel like I know I'm in a good place. I feel like I feel better than ever before. I'm not feeling like there's any issues or problems. Of course, if there's ever like an emergency or something, of course I'll go, but I don't really see myself going to that kind of a doctor again.
That's so great. I like that. I look forward to one day where hopefully we'll have a better blend between Western medicine, Eastern medicine, functional medicine, and it won't be, it's very political in a way. It's kind of the same way things are divided in that realm.
I think so too. Like, I think when I really learned, when I looked into it a little deeper, and after my experience like that, and just kind of other research I've done and hearing other people's experiences too, I just feel like it's not an industry that I want to support. You know, I feel like the more of us that kind of branch out a little bit and explore other options, and, you know, maybe there are other ways that are a little bit more sustainable and better for our bodies, I think that's where the paradigm shifts, and we can possibly start to create a new health system where those things are kind of supported, you know?
Completely. Would love to see that. With the shifts and everything, I definitely think we're starting to see a shift in society. And I think it's so beautiful the way as individuals, we're really kind of taking ownership of our health. And I really look forward to, like you know, passing that on to our children and just watching this new set of generations. But speaking for yourself, did you find that as you kind of started clearing your body and opening up different pathways, did your spiritual journey, did that shift at all along in the process?
Oh, big time. I think that's probably that's been my most favorite part of my entire journey. Like, before all of this, I really wasn't, I was just very, I think, caught up in the trauma and pain of my childhood, and I just didn't know who I was. And I was very detached from myself, and I didn't know who I was, what I believed in, what my passions were, like nothing. I was just so disconnected and so confused. And I think that this whole health journey that I've been through just really just like, not in a gentle way. I think it really like picked me up and slammed me down and just completely cracked me open. And it was brutal and it was really hard, but it created those cracks, created the space for all of these new things to come in through, right? And for me, like, that is where my spiritual journey started, my intuition heightened. And I feel like, especially when you clean up your diet this much and remove all of the toxins, and I mean, not even just food, like even just all the products we use, all the chemicals and all the household products, all the sprays, all the fragrances, all of the additives they put in our food for no reason. I mean, even I know the meat thing is a sensitive topic, and anyone that eats meat, I'm totally fine with it. But I really do believe that eating meat, you're also, I really do believe that you're ingesting the pain and suffering of the animals. I think the adrenaline too. I think animals are full of a lot of adrenaline when they're in fear before they are slaughtered. I think, you know, I really have grown to really believe I don't think there is a humane way to kill animals, even though that's what we've been kind of raised to believe. And so I think all of that plays a role in just kind of numbing our bodies to a certain degree. And so when your body is packed full of all these chemicals and suppressive things, and I think it really damps down your intuition and your connection to what's around you. And so when you lift all of that out and clear all of that out, I think for me, it just kind of like opened up a channel to this whole other world. And it's just been the most beautiful thing ever. Most beautiful thing ever.
I love that. So well said. I would completely agree there. It'd be so interesting if we could somehow communicate with the animal community, because I do believe that there definitely is an underlying level of fear that I think just resides within them, which is really sad.
Right. I think so too. Don't you think it's crazy that we have just almost kind of been like conditioned in a sense to kind of go against our inner feelings, that it would not be a stressful and traumatic thing for an animal to be slaughtered? I mean, it blows my mind. But the media is very clever. They're very, very clever. I'll give them that.
They are so clever. It's the more that you really look into it and question things, it's incredible. With your love for children and just kind of your connection with the youth, do you anticipate yourself like at any point in the future sharing your journey to help inspire children or anything in that realm?
Yeah, so for sure. I'm still trying to figure out what that is going to look like and how I'm going to create something in order to do so. I'm one of those kind of people that, I think I'm very much of a creative. I have so many ideas, but I just get so overwhelmed with the big picture. I'm just like, I don't even know where to start.
Mm-hmm.
But I am with children all the time. I am in the classroom as well, teaching, and I always bring these kinds of conversations in, of course, age appropriate, but
yeah.
I always, mindfulness conversations, food conversations, emotional conversations. I kind of try and weave it into everything that I do, just to get them thinking about things. And you know what? They love it. Kids, that's naturally how they are. I believe that's how we all were when we were little, right? And then things just change so much as our life experiences kind of progress. But honestly, like, the thing that makes me more excited than anything else in this world is having my own children and just doing it with them. Like, I can't wait. I can't wait.
That'll be such a special journey. I love that. For people who are looking to connect with you, where can they find you?
So I have my Instagram page is at Holly Hawaii. That's where I'm not the most consistent person ever. I don't like regularly post and keep it up. I try to do my best, but I'm kind of sporadic how I do it. When I'm inspired, I do. When I'm not, I don't just put stuff up there for the sake of it. But I have some exciting things that I'm working on. There's more coming up. I'm still working on things, but that's where you can find me.
I love it. I think it's great that you don't, just post for the purpose of posting, because it's just so not personal. And I think that we're so much more creative when we are in the moment, and we really don't have to go, there again, like, society tries to force this, like, oh, this is how you're supposed to do social media. And that's not what it's supposed to be about. So
totally. It's not a one way fits all. That's for sure.
Definitely. I love that. Well, before we close out the episode, I do like to end things with some loving your own soul questions, which are really just some fun on the spot questions. So that way our listeners can get to know you just a little bit better.
Okay.
To begin, do you know your sun, moon, and rising sign?
I don't, and I always hear people talking about this. I know that I'm a Scorpio, and I'm very much of a Scorpio, but I actually don't know. Where do you even find that out?
We should look it up. When we finish this, I can look it up for you. Yeah. And I'll send it to you. It's really very, very interesting.
Awesome.
Cool. If you were a fruit, what type of fruit do you think you would be?
Oh, for sure, a mango.
I love it. Mangoes are so good. Our neighbor has a huge mango tree, and they're just blue. Probably in another month and a half, I think they'll be ready, and I cannot wait. Mangoes
are they just the best? I could live off just mangoes.
Totally. Yes. Mangoes and papaya. They're so good.
So good.
What has been your favorite age thus far in your life?
Right now. So I am turning 32 this year, and I just feel the best I've felt in my entire life. And I just feel so excited for what's to come. Honestly, I feel like my life is like just starting right now.
So cool. That's so amazing. What is your favorite workout of choice, or current workout of choice too? Doesn't have to be a favorite.
Oh my God, this is so embarrassing. You're talking to the worst person ever about exercise. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm really bad. Like, I really don't work out too much. If I do, it's just a walk on the beach or a walk around the block. I don't enjoy like intense, like hardcore exercise.
Yeah.
It's something I'm working on.
I think walking,
learn to love it or grow to love it.
For sure. Walking is such a beautiful form of exercise too, especially on the beach. I mean, it's so good for your body.
For sure, something outside. Like, you couldn't pay me $1 million to go and work out in the gym. I'd rather just not.
Right. Just never do it. I feel that completely. When did your exploration to diving deeper into your own soul first begin? and how has it evolved since then?
Oh, that's such a good question. I really believe that I've been doing that ever since I was born. I mean, even as a kid, I feel like I was just always wondering and curious about everything and just so internal. I grew up a middle child. I had an older sister and a younger brother, and I literally was like middle child syndrome, just like the quiet one that just kind of fades into the background. And I was always just kind of wanted to do my own thing. I never really felt like I kind of fit in or belonged in my family. I remember my family used to always like love watching movies and watching so much TV, and I just couldn't do it. I just wanted to like be in my room making something or coloring or listening to music or writing out my thoughts and stuff. So yeah, I think it's something that I've been doing ever since I was little, but I didn't quite know what it was. And it's developed into more and more and more as the years have gone on.
Wow, that's so cool. Do you do a lot of journaling and things now?
I do. I think that everyone talks about journaling. So many people recommend it. I'm sure it sounds kind of like a fad to a lot of people, but honestly, journaling has gotten me through some of the most darkest times of my life. Like I've consistently journaled since I was a kid. I still have journals back from when I was like 10 years old. And it's so crazy to go back and read.
I can imagine.
Because you think the thing is that when major things happen, you think you're going to remember them, but you don't. I think you remember the feelings, but you forget the details. And going back and being able to read the actual details and the actual circumstances of how it all happened and how it all unfolded, I think it's very therapeutical too, because it's such a great way to see like how far you really come and how much we can endure as humans. Life is crazy. Life is not easy, but it is a beautiful journey, that's for sure.
It is. It's so crazy. I find it so interesting too, reflecting back on past experiences and things I went through and how I could have never known at the time what the outcome would have been.
Yes.
But then like the way it all makes so much sense, or the way certain things connect the dots later on down the road. And
Totally. I feel like when I look back at all my journals, it's like, I feel like I could make a puzzle out of them. Like looking back now, I'm like, oh yeah, that piece totally fits there. This is why that one happened, so that this one could happen. And that's how like we got here, right? Like it all just perfectly comes together. It just weaves together like a patchwork blanket, I feel like, story of our lives.
100%. Yeah. I've actually thought about going back and like trying to piece everything together, but I'm like, I don't know if I really need to spend my time doing that, but it totally does connect. So awesome. Well, Holly, thank you so much for jumping on here. This was so much fun. Truly enjoyed just learning your whole story. And I wish we lived closer because I feel like we could totally become friends.
Absolutely. If you ever come to Hawaii, you better let me know.
I will. No, I definitely will. How fun is that? So inspiring. Holly is just, such a gift, so brave as well. And just talk about trusting your intuition. I mean, if anyone has ever second guessed their intuition, I think Holly is a perfect example that it will not lead you astray. And there is so many healing properties in plants, fruits, and vegetables outside of just all the different kind of limiting dialogues and conversations that have previously been had. But if you think about it, it really is so simple, as we talked about. If Mother Nature is growing something, there is a purpose for it, and there's no reason why our bodies cannot reap the benefits of it. If you want a little bit more information on who the medical medium is, I did just record an episode, my weekly digest. I believe it is 8 or 11, 9, something like that. It's just a couple back talking about who the medical medium is, his background, and then some further details on celery juice and the benefits behind that. So definitely go check that out if you have more questions. We'll also link some resources in the show notes. Overall, just thank you so much for joining us here today. Thank you for listening to Holly's story. I hope you gleaned some inspiration and motivation yourself. One thing as well that I did just want to mention, I know we kind of reiterated it a couple times, Holly did specifically, but it's so important to do you. And that is so true. While a lot of these things and philosophies, ideologies, if you will, or theories worked for Holly and really healed her health journey, it's not certain that it will work for everyone. So it's very, very important to take care of yourself, do what feels right for you, and don't always try to do exactly what everyone else is doing. Listen to yourself and always, always, always consult with your doctor. Neither of us are trained experts by any means. Every single body is different. So just because Holly was able to kind of go the non-traditional route does not mean that that is the route for you. So please take inspiration from this, but always remember that you are unique, and when in doubt, your doctors are the trained professionals. So always consult with them before making any large lifestyle changes. But thank you so much for joining us. I am so grateful to have had you here. If you feel called to rate and review the podcast, I would be so honored to read your words and just kind of learn more about what you gleaned from the episode. If you do so, in exchange, I will be sending you my plant-based recipe ebook, which includes 25 yummy recipes from smoothies, salad dressings, meals, desserts. There's a whole bunch of fun stuff in there of my own kind of inspiration that I found in the kitchen recently. So all you have to do is rate and review the podcast and then screenshot it and send me your proof to lovingyourownsoul@gmail.com. And in gratitude, I will send you back my plant-based ebook. So have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for joining us here.